the feaster from afar, the unspeakable one, him who is not to be named, the Yellow King. After stumbling queerly upon the hellish and forbidden book of horrors, the two learn, among other hideous things which no sane mortal should know, that this talisman is indeed the nameless yellow sign handed down from the accursed cult of Hastur. Today we are once again exploring a Cthulhu mythos and another one of its obscure deities. Hastur is an entity that goes by many names, and contrary to popular belief, he was not actually created by Lovecraft. He first appeared in Hastur the Shepherd, a short story by Ambrose Bierce in 1893. In this story, Hastur was the god of shepherds, and he appeared to be quite harmless, a depiction that differs greatly from the work that followed. Lovecraft himself only mentioned Hastur's name once in his short story The Whisperer in the Darkness. The name is sandwiched in between various other deities and places, which created some confusion and plenty of debate as to whether Lovecraft intended Hastur to be a deity himself, or rather another location in his mythos. Hastur would however later be recognised as a great old one, the child of Yog-Sothoth and the half-brother of the great dreamer Cthulhu. The Yellow King resides in Carcosa, an ancient city created by Ambrose Bierce. We don't know much about Carcosa, other than it was once ancient and mysterious, but after its destruction, it resembles nothing more than the ruins of a once great place. The best description we have of Hastur's home comes from Robert W. Chambers and Lynn Carter in the stories An Inhabitant of Carcosa and A Litany to Hastur. Carcosa is described as having black stars hanging in a bright sky, large black domes and monolithic towers scattered everywhere. Its main source of light comes from twin suns that eventually sink into the Lake of Hali, bringing darkness. Hastur, like many of the creatures and deities that appear in a Cthulhu mythos, does not have one clearly defined form. The most common and recognisable of these forms is a large entity dressed in yellow, with tentacles reminiscent of his half-brother Cthulhu, but more octopus than squid-like. Among his many forms, Hastur also has avatars that he can transfer his consciousness into. These avatars are used to communicate and influence humankind. The most common of these avatars is of course the King in Yellow, a hunched figure dressed in a tattered yellow gown, concealing his face with a mask that is devoid of any emotion. What lies beneath this mask is something that we can only speculate about. What horrors it conceals, we can only hope that we never encounter. The Feaster from Afar by Joseph Payne describes one of these incarnations as a black shriveled monstrosity, with tentacles tipped with razor-sharp talons that can pierce a victim's skull and siphon out the brain. Definitely not the friendly patron of shepherds that Ambrose once introduced him as. On occasion, the King in Yellow has been known to appear in our dimension, where he attempts to turn all of those he comes across to his cause, much like his brother's efforts to grow the cult of Cthulhu. The main tool used by Hastur to grow his cult is the yellow sign. Anyone who gazes upon it falls instantly under the influence of the Yellow King. Those who are lucky enough to escape the yellow sign are then visited by Hastur himself, ensuring that they remain under his control. We may not be able to comprehend Hastur and his motives, but we know that he has a deep hatred for his brother Cthulhu. With Hastur amassing a cult following, many have theorized that he is indeed building an army to finally destroy Cthulhu when he rises from Earlier. For anyone who's watched the first season of True Detective, you may recall that the nickname given to the murderer being pursued was the Yellow King. There are also several references made to the work of Robert W. Chambers in the form of a journal that mentions black falling stars and a location known as Carcosa. Hastur is definitely one of the most interesting characters to appear in a Cthulhu mythos that wasn't created by Lovecraft, and the hatred between Hastur and Cthulhu definitely creates an interesting dynamic. So what do you think Hastur and his cult have planned? If you did happen to watch True Detective, and you didn't get any of the references, does knowing about them now make the show seem any more scary or eerie? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Mythology and Fiction Explained.